Today we got a request. We're going to read The Sorcerer's Apprentice from our Walt Disney Storyland 55 Favorite Stories. All right. This is from the motion picture Fantasia. Let's see if we have an author. No, we do not. All right. There was once a great sorcerer who knew more about magic than anyone else in the whole world. He lived deep in an underground cavern alone, but for one little apprentice, who was Mickey Mouse. There was a lot of work to be done in that underground cavern, and Mickey did it all. He did the meal cooking and the floor sweeping, the bed making and the errand running, and the water hauling and wood chopping for the sorcerer. He got very tired of it too. For it did seem that with all the magic under the sorcerer's tall hat, he should be able to find easier ways of doing the housework.
If I had the magic hat, I'd never work again,
Mickey thought enviously as he watched the sorcerer weaving magic spells one day. Mickey, at the time, was busy filling the big tub in the middle of the cavern with bucketfuls of water from the well outside. As soon as he rested for a moment to watch the magic, he felt the sorcerer's stern gaze upon him, and he hurried off to fill his buckets. But when he came back again, Mickey found the cavern empty. The sorcerer had gone off to visit a neighboring magician, and he had left his magic hat behind. This was the moment Mickey had been waiting for. Very cautiously, he tiptoed over to the table, picked up the magic hat, and set it on his own head. It fitted perfectly. Being a magic hat, it would fit anyone who wore it, but Mickey did not know that.
Gee,
he thought happily,
I guess probably I was born to be a magician.
Now, to test the hat's power. As Mickey glanced around the gloomy cavern, he spied the old broom leaning against the wall.
That will do,
he thought. Looking as stern and masterful as he could, Mickey pointed his fingers at the broom. The broom quivered. Then, while Mickey's eyes grew bigger and rounder with pleased surprise, it jumped away from the wall and began to waddle across the room toward him.
I'm a sorcerer,
Mickey thought proudly.
With this magic hat, I can do anything my master can. No more housework for me. I'll let the brooms do my water carrying. Broom,
he ordered in his sternest tones,
fill this tub for me.
The broom bobbed forward in a little nod, and then as Mickey watched, wide-eyed, it waddled out of the cavern, opened the stone steps, or up the stone steps to the well, and was soon back with 2 buckets full of water. Into the tub went the water, and away waddled the broom for more. This was wonderful. Mickey capered around the room in a gleeful dance to celebrate his freedom from toil. Then he sank into the sorcerer's armchair, leaned back to dream of all the marvelous things he would do now that he could make magic. He smiled with satisfaction at the steady swish of the broom going about its work. Then his head nodded, and Mickey dropped off to sleep. In his dream, Mickey was standing on a great high cliff overlooking the whole world, and around him the stars and planets wheeled and danced at his every nod and gesture. Far below, the ocean roared, and when he beckoned, the waves rose up and bowed before him. Higher and higher dashed the waves, until one broke at his very feet, and Mickey awoke with a start. Water was lapping at his toes. The sorcerer's chair in which he sat was bouncing on a little sea. The whole cavern was flooded. While Mickey slept, the broom had worked on, filling the tub to overflowing and finally flooding the whole great room. And here it came now, waddling down the steps to empty 2 more buckets into the flood.
Stop, cried Mickey. Stop, broom! Stop, I say!
He waved his arms, and he pointed trembling fingers, and he tried every trick and gesture he had seen the sorcerer use, as far as he could remember. But the broom went sturdily on about its work. Mickey tried to snatch away the buckets, but still the broom would not be stopped. Then he thought of the axe. With a mighty blow, he smashed through the broom's wood handle, and then chop, 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 he hacked it into hundreds of bits.
Well, that's done,
Mickey said to himself with a great sigh as he sank down on the steps to rest for a moment.
Now, to get rid of all this water.
But what was this? Before Mickey's horrified eyes, each splinter of wood became a full-sized broom, armed with 2 water buckets. Now, 100 brooms were hauling water into the cavern, which one had filled to flooding.
No, go back,
he cried, holding out his arms to stop the march of brooms. But on they came, pushing Mickey into the water as they marched with terrible steadiness to the tub, dumped their buckets, and then started back to the well. Poor Mickey. He was floundered in the swirling waters. The sorcerer's book of wisdom floated past, and he snatched at it as his last hope. Pulling it up to a dry step, Mickey began paging through the thick, water-soaked pages in a desperate search for the words that would make everything right again. He was so intent on his search that he did not even notice when a dark shadow fell over the cavern. The sorcerer had returned. One glance was enough to tell the magic master what had happened. He lifted his arms in a commanding gesture, and the water vanished. Mickey could scarcely believe his eyes, but it was true. The floor of the cavern was dry. The broom leaned lazily against the wall, and the tub of water stood waiting. Still, just half full, with the empty buckets beside it. Everything was just as it had been when the sorcerer had left, all but one thing. The magic hat was still on Mickey's head. With a sheepish grin, Mickey handed the hat to the sorcerer, and then without a word, he picked up the buckets and raced up the stairs to the well.
At last,
Mickey told himself as he trudged back toward the cavern a moment later with the heavy buckets sloshing at his side.
At least this job I know how to stop when it's finished.
There we go. All right. Hope you have a good day. Good night. I love you.